All right, hello and welcome back to the 5th NNP Symposium. Shannon, you can go ahead and turn on your camera and microphone. There we go. So a couple quick kind of housekeeping things before we get started here. Everyone remember, we will be doing a Q&A at the end. If you'd like to send in questions for that, there is a button at the bottom of your Zoom window that says Q&A. Click on that and it'll bring up the box to type in. We will be answering all of those at the end, so you're welcome to send them in earlier, but they will not be addressed until the end of the presentation. Also, we always like to thank the Eric P. Newman Numismatic Education Society, who funds the entire symposium and enables us to make it free for everyone. So I believe that is all that I have. So for this presentation, we'll be hearing from Shannon Rajkitkul about a new age for rare coin buying. He is the president of Paradime Coins, so he has a lot of experience in the industry. And I think we're all excited to hear him get started. So I will wrap it up and let you take it away.
Thank you, Liana. Good morning, everyone, fellow collectors. My name is Shannon Rajkitkul, and today I'm going to be giving you a little presentation on, let me try to get through. Okay, perfect. A little presentation on how best to buy coins from dealers. So a little bit background about myself. I've been buying full-time in the numismatic industry for over 10 years now. I first started off at Stax Bowers, eventually then starting Paradime Coins. And in the past 5 years, we've handled some incredible coins, some of which you see here on the right. Some of our favorite coins, actually: an 1856 Flying Eagle, an 1869 Double Eagle, 1795 Half Diamond, and an 1866 dollar. All these, the finest known, top pop. That's what, we love to do. That's what we like to deal in. At the same time, we will also buy coins as low as $500. Today, the main goal is to talk about two things, to give you guys a little bit insight on how we buy coins, how you should be buying coins, and then later at the end, a little intro into what's hot, what's not, and what's undervalued. So before we look into the different kinds of dealers and how best to engage in them, we should separate into two categories: retail and wholesale. For the purpose of this presentation, I won't be going into wholesale because in all likelihood, collectors very rarely engage with wholesale dealers. But on the other hand, you will most likely engage with retail dealers. And we've separated them out here into 5 categories: storefront retail, show convention retail, online retails, private retails, and social media retail. Also, a little side note, throughout the presentations, you'll see some interesting coins that either we've sold or we have, just a little bit to just show you some of the coins that really make us excited to do what we do. So the first types of dealers is in the typical sense, your average, retailer that has a commercial storefront. They're paying rent, they have electricity to pay, they have overheads, all the things that you would associate with a retailer. We have examples here with Stax Bowers and Northern Nevada. So what should we do? What should you do to best work with these kinds of dealers? So in our experience, you would not want to be, emailing them saying, hey, we like a coin that you guys have. What's the best price you can do? And the reason is because they have, maybe 10, or maybe 20, maybe 50 people coming over in a day, and there's a need to serve these people, to sell to them, maybe even to buy from them. So our first tip is, to go there, to meet them in person, to get familiar, and then buy there. So that's our first little advice, and to differentiate between the 5 different kinds of dealers. And then later we'll talk about how best to see and how best to make an offer and how best to engage in them. All right. So the second kind is dealers that set up at shows and conventions, like the US Mint. But many other dealers as well, they don't have an online presence, they don't have a mailing list. Sometimes they just exclusively set up at shows. And we've seen many of these dealers. What is the best way to engage with these dealers? Again, the best advice that we can give is, if you've bought a coin from them that you liked, you've seen that they have got a great eye, the best thing that you can do is ask them for their schedule. In our industry, you can almost find a great show once a month. So if they're heavy on the shows, you'd want to know their schedule and try to get first touch, try to get in at the earliest, when they set up, and try to get first shot at their coins. Another thing that you should really consider when working with dealers at shows is, we wrote here, don't ponder. And what I mean by that is, simply, if you find a coin that you really need for your want list or for your collection, don't mull it over for 3-4 hours, because in a convention, in a show, like us, for example, at Paradime Coins, when we're at a show, we're buying as fast as possible, as many coins as possible, that fits our needs. And so do other dealers, so do other collectors. So while you're thinking, you might lose that opportunity to get a great coin. The third type of dealer, and don't forget we have 5. The third kinds of dealers are dealers that, are heavily invested online. One of the biggest is David Lawrence, of course, and it's important to consider the best form of communication with these dealers. If they're heavily invested online, it would make little sense to go visit their office. It would probably make more sense, to either email them or use the make an offer button. These are the kinds of dealers these are the kinds of ways that you want to engage with them best. Now, one thing you have to consider in mind is that online dealers, they span very, very differently. One dealer you might expect to make an offer for 15%, while another dealer, you'd hope to want to buy the coin right away. There are many dealers whose business models change very differently. And for example, for us, when we list our mailing list on a monthly cycle, we hope that most of our coins will sell right away. Whereas some other dealers, they would want to stock coins longer. So it's imperative to understand how they're offering their coins, how often do they sell, and the turnaround as well. That will give you a little hint into how much you can make an offer. And we'll go slightly deeper into that later as well. This is, okay, another side note to note is that they are dealers, like Legends Numismatics, who they do auction, they do many various modes of method. But for this presentation, I'm going to put them in a little separate section called private retail. And, I've listed 2 examples here. Both of these companies are amazing. They deal with some of the highest quality of coins out there in the market, very reputable, one of the best. And it's important to understand the importance of cultivating a relationship. You can imagine a scenario, for example, when they would call you up and say, hey, maybe John Doe, whatever your name may be, we have a 6-figure coin for you. It's the finest known. Would you want this or not? Like, this would fit perfectly into your portfolio. This would fit in your box of 20. And it would make little sense for you to try and negotiate in these deals. We've worked with these 2 companies, very closely before, and it's very important to have a close and intimate relationship with them. Try to understand, and then you would get first shot. So this is the 4th kind of a dealer that we've seen. So the advice on this is cultivate relationship and don't try to haggle if they're offering you exclusively something. The 5th kind of dealers we've seen, and this I think is the fastest growing market right now, the fastest growing segment of dealers right now. Almost on a daily basis, do we see, a new Instagram account showcasing 20-30 coins, or a new Facebook account with thousands of members in there. It has a lot of potential. Certainly, There are some, some dealers out there like Coins who are heavily invested into Instagram. They're promoting it, they're educating the market. They're doing a great job. And this is certainly the future that I see. It's a lot of potential. Now, what kind of coins are sold on social media that I called, social media dealers? Typically, we've seen coins from, $100 to a few $1,000s, with an emphasis on coins that are, exceptionally well toned, has high eye appeal, those kinds of coins. The best, how we do buy and we do sell a lot into this market as well. And our tip would be that the margins for these kinds of dealers are higher than the other kinds of dealers. So because there are not that many people into this market, because not a lot of people have Instagram or Facebook accounts for collectors in our industry, feel free to make an offer. I've noticed that, sometimes we're able to get great deals, great bargains if you're just willing to make an offer. And so that would be our advice on this kind. The sixth kind, which we have not included, of course, the sixth kind of dealer is buying through auction, but there's little to be said about that. So we've included just 5 for this. So we've seen 5 kinds of dealers. The next layer we need to consider is, what kind of coins do they deal in? How do they source their coins, and whom do they sell to? Why is it important? So we've seen the different kinds of business model. Now we need to see basically a little bit closer look at the way in which they buy their coins, whom do they sell to, and what type of coins, because this will give you a very close insight into how best to deal with them. So the first one is, how do they source their coins? We've listed 5 examples here. And certain methods implies certain things about a dealer that you can extract. For example, let's say you go to a dealer's website or a dealer's list, and you've noticed that all the coins, or almost all of the coins that they buy from, are from auction. It could be for a variety of reasons. Maybe they feel it was undervalued, or maybe they felt that they could cross it over, or the timing was right. There was a lot of potential. Whatever the reason may be, dealers do buy from auction. And one thing you should consider when dealing with these kinds of dealers is that because you're buying because they bought from auction, you wouldn't want to offer less than what they've bought it for. That's number one. The second thing that implies is that they are aware that how much they bought their coins for. So they are willing to hold on to this. Some great companies, for example, RCW from the Contursi family, they've done this business model very, very well. And obviously they're doing very well with this. So the advice is to offer a fair amount from what they've bought, and that would be the best way to engage with them. The second kind of way that a dealer can source is from a collector, so from a customer. And what this implies is that they've had to pay a fair bit amount more than what they would have liked from a dealer, for example. You can think of this in a way, for example, if Paradime Coins buys from another collector, from a customer, we know that they have had to buy their coin, for example, an 1803/2 half eagle from another dealer. And what this means is that when we sell, we would have to sell then at a slightly higher amount. So if you notice that a dealer buys typically a lot of coins from collectors, the price point might be higher than you would like, meaning it might be higher than the relevant comps or auction records. A third kind is when a dealer buys from another dealer. My advice, this would probably be a great way for you to buy coins from another dealer, because when a dealer buys from another dealer, he's most often getting it at a wholesale price. And what this means is that there is some room for you to negotiate, some room for you to haggle down and to get a fair price. So we certainly buy a lot from collectors. We certainly buy a lot from dealers. those are probably the two methods that we buy most from. So if you don't know, you can always ask a dealer, is this consigned? Is this from a collector? And more often than not, they might be willing to answer these questions. Number 4, if a dealer typically deals with consigned coins, what does this imply? It implies that, they have a very small margin, number 1. Number 2, it implies that they are motivated to sell, because whether it's a $3,000 coin or a $2,800 coin, they would be motivated to sell. So if you notice that a coin is consigned, or if they say that it's consigned, I would recommend making an offer, because the dealer's inclined to sell, you're inclined to buy it. It's a win-win for everyone. I would probably say we deal with about 95% of our coins we buy outright, but 5% of the time is dealers do certainly get coins consigned. It could be for a variety of reasons. Maybe we're not that confident in the price point, or the market we feel is a little shaky, whatever the reason may be. If it's a consigned coin, our pro tip advice would be is to make an offer if you feel it's slightly more than what you're willing to pay. And then the last kind that you should consider is if a dealer buys a coin raw. If a dealer buys a coin raw, or it's a crack-out coin, or it's an upgraded coin, what this implies is that there's a large margin. So there's a big profit margin that they're making. So if you make an offer, they'll certainly be willing to accept an offer that's fair. All these information here is to provide a little bit context for you to understand that when you deal with a dealer, you need to put these things in, you need to have these in the back of your mind so that you know best how to engage with a dealer. The second thing we should also consider is what type of coins do these dealers deal in? We've listed some examples here. A rare better date, PCGS CAC, or an NGC CAC, a modern coin, finest known, and toned. And again, these 4 types will imply something that we'll go into that will allow you to now know how to best navigate a dealer. For example, if a dealer deals in high-end PCGS CAC coins or NGC CAC coins, and they're probably within the range of like 5,000 to 50,000, this implies that they certainly are a proponent of CAC, for example, number 1, but number 2, that they believe in quality coins. The price point also might be a little bit higher, but they also believe in the quality. And so if you try to make an offer, that's at a level at PCGS, for example, without any CAC coins, you're not going to succeed. So making an offer, it needs to be comparable to what other CAC coins have sold for. Now, if a coin is modern, for example, if it's an American Gold Eagle, or that's bullion, or if you buy a Roosevelt dime, there's no real need for you to make an offer. You either buy the coin or you shop around these. So as you see here, we've given 2 examples where it's important to understand that how type of coins plays in when you're dealing with buying from dealers. The third type is, a beautiful 1875 nickel that we sold this year to another collector. This is the finest known. It's a pop 1. What can be said about this coin is that there are no comps, there are no auction records, there's only a price guide. So what this shows is that, number 1, we had to step up to buy this coin. When we tried to sell it initially, we had to also sell it for a number that was more than what we paid for, which was more than the PCGS price guide. And so if you're invested in buying the finest known, you will often have to step up and pay more than price guide, or certainly more than what it's sold for before. So for finest known, I would say don't try to haggle as much as seeing the value in the coin and trying to compare it to other similar dates for the similar type that also have sold for in the same range. That would be the best advice for this. And the fourth kind is toned coins. You know, we have two examples. Another two examples that we sold this year is that these are great coins because number one, when we listed them within a day or two, they sold. But we had a collector that emailed us, you know, for both of them saying, would you accept, you know, X amount for these two coins? And by the time we ended up in the negotiation talking, these two coins had already sold. So wild toned coins do go for a premium, and typically toned coins, you can negotiate slightly more than, say, you know, an original BU Morgan dollar. You have to also understand that the demand is much more than, you know, a white color coin, for example, in our experience. So toned coins, try to buy it. Just try to buy it if it's right up your alley. It's what you need. Try to buy it. If it's a coin that you can see that you have the ability to negotiate, then negotiate. And the last thing is, whom do they sell to? We listed a few examples here. You know, we have Louis Eliasberg here, the want list, institutions or dealers. Now, how does this impact your ability to buy coins from dealers? If you go to a dealer's website and you see that he primarily deals with want lists, then that shows something else compared to if he's selling, you know, if he has hand selected, you know, 30, 40 coins, high-end coins. What does it imply? Okay, want list means that they work on a small margin. If a coin fits a criteria, then they will buy, and then that's it. If a dealer works with mega collectors or other registry collectors, you'll be working very closely with them, and you would have to foster, you know, a relationship with them. So the ability to get first shot at great coins depends on your connection with them. So it's important to see whom do they sell to. Is it to everyone? Is it to a select few? That will allow you to know, you know, the kind of relationships that they expect from you. So hopefully you understand all these things that apply so far is that different kinds of dealers, where do they set, how are their business models set up? Is it a retail? Are they doing wholesale? Is it online? Where do they source their coins from? You know, is it from auction? Is it from other dealers? Whom do they sell to? When you put all these together, you will then be able to pick or few dealers that you find fit you the best. Another important thing that you should note is the kind of coins that they sell. Is it the kind of coins you want to buy, generally all of them? If so, then you know that they have a similar taste, similar eye to you. That's very important. That's probably the most important thing. But in terms of making an offer and trying to get a best deal out of them, consider all these factors in mind when trying to negotiate with them. So the next part, the second part is what's hot, soon to be then what's not, and what's undervalued. Again, this is based, you know, primarily in our experience. And for the sake of this presentation, you know, we'll define what's hot as something that sells within a few days on our website to a few weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks. If that happens, then we call it what's hot. What's not, we would define what's not, excuse me. What's not, we would define as taking 6 months or longer. Anything in between, you know, from 2 months to 5 months is normal. Okay. So as you can see here from the images, smaller denomination gold coins this year has been incredibly hot for us. If you'd asked me last year, I would say probably $5 or $10 gold coins were incredibly hot. This year, it's lower denominations. Specifically, $2.50 have sold very, very quickly this year. You know, I would say probably the AU58 range sold, you know, almost immediately every single time. And the reason why we didn't put $5 or $10 is probably because of the, you know, the influx of great coins coming from the Fairmont collection. And, you know, the market probably saw a huge supply of that. So perhaps demand went slightly, you know, dipped a bit, even though, you know, the auction records did show very strong results. So what's hot? Lower denomination gold coins, incredibly hot, as well as rare gold coins that are, you know, $5 or $10, but just rare dates. And I would define rare dates as typically coins with like under 150 known today, the survival rates. So those two categories did incredibly well. What's not? What's not hot is, you know, the first three, I think anyone would say yes, you know, yep, those three, you know, it has been not as hot in the past few years. So those are to be expected. But the fourth one, Liberty seeded quarter, this would surprise a few. I think it's just because not for any particular reason why the market is a little bit down, but I would, if I had to guess why, I would say because maybe the number of collectors that are building top end sets are fewer, though of course we're selling them. They're selling, you know, the great coins are selling very quickly, but I would say the coins that are semi-rare, probably within the range of $500 to $3,000 have been slow. And also another reason that can be is because there have been great, you know, $half, seeded $half, seeded dimes, seeded half dimes coming to the market. So perhaps seeded quarters, you know, the demand wasn't met this year. What's undervalued? I think this is probably one of my favorite topics to discuss, because it's something that you know, these are the kind of coins that, you know, at Paradime Coins we like to buy all day long. And I would probably put it into three categories. The first one is toned gold. So what's undervalued, in our opinion, has been toned gold. And I don't mean original crusty looking gold coins, but I mean toned to the core, like almost terminally, like these coins, you know, almost this one, but certainly these three coins. And we've seen through almost every time we post these coins up, almost, you know, the same 2-3 customers, you know, buys them right away. Certainly not many people are aware of how rare or the value that these toned gold coins possess. If you compare them to, you know, silver coinage for a toned coin, even though they might be, you know, more beautifully toned, for example, this coin, the premiums are huge. I don't think that toned gold premium will ever reach as high as these coins, but certainly much more than what they are now. So undervalued number one is toned gold. Undervalued number two is these 1, 2, 3, the silver type toned, but specifically tones that are, you know, monster tone, wow coins, 10 out of 10, not 6 out of 10, not 7 out of 10. If I had to say, these 6 out of 10, these 7 out of 10s probably have tanked slightly in the market today, while coins that are maybe 8 out of 10, no, maybe 9 out of 10 and 10 out of 10 coins, premiums have shot even higher. So be careful. I think these tone coins that are, you know, in the range of 5 to 8 out of 10 are probably trap coins now, I would call them. And the last category that I think are, you know, we were presently surprised was toned nickels. You know, this is one example. If you go to our archives, you'll be able to see, you know, maybe 6 or 7 beautifully toned buffaloes that we saw this year. And we were very surprised to see how well they've done. The premiums have gone up. They're doing very, very well. So certainly pleasantly surprised, and I hope to see them perform better as well. So to conclude, what's hot, what's not. What's hot is lower denomination gold. What's not is, be careful of those common coins. And what's undervalued is tone gold. I hopefully, shared a little bit insight into the best ways to deal with dealers, considering their business model, where they source their coins, and a few other factors. I'll be I'll be happy to answer any questions. If you have any further questions, you can also email me. My email is right there, shannon@paradimecoins.com. And I'm open to any questions if there are any.
All righty, thank you. So for everyone in the audience, go ahead and enter your questions for the Q&A. There's that button at the bottom of your screen that says Q&A. Should be pretty self-explanatory. Shannon, you're welcome to go ahead and stop your screen share. There should be a red button probably up near the top. Sometimes it changes on Apple computers.
Got it.
Looks like you turned off your video as opposed to the screen share.
Oh, screen share. Okay, let me do that.
There we go. All righty. Let's see. There's some questions. How do you determine the premium for toned coins?
Oh, excellent question. So I would say premium, how do you determine toned coins for premium coins? Firstly, it would depend what type of toned coins. For example, if you look at a Morgan toned coin, say a common Morgan coin that's graded MS64, and the coin has textile toning, it's absolutely beautiful. You can expect to pay probably between, if it's a monster tone, you can expect to pay between 3,000 to 5,000. That's a typical range. If the coin is, let's say, a seeded coin, like a Liberty seeded $50, seeded quarter, then you can sometimes expect to pay twice the amount. But there is no real formula, to be honest. It depends on each type. For example, if you try to pay huge premiums on proof coins, this might be a red flag, because proof coins do tone a lot compared to business strike coins. So be careful the amount of premium that you pay. I would highly recommend sticking to a certain type. Maybe you can stick to some common tone coins are Morgans. There is clear patterns of how much tone coins are worth for Morgan dollars now. In other categories, not as much. I would say another category that has a very clear structure for tone coins are bust half dollars. Bust half tone coins, the premiums are very, very clear. One thing that you should do is look up auction records. PCGS CoinFacts has tons of records now. You can also look up for Morgans. You can also look up on Heritage and maybe even Great Collection. So be careful for the amount of premium you pay for proof. Business like coins, it depends. And be sure to look up comps. Try to find comparable auction results before you determine to pay the amount of premium.
Alrighty. If one was a contrarian investor or collector, wouldn't one want to buy what was currently not hot?
Absolutely. Very, 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 very true. That is why this year, believe it or not, we've been able to buy some great Liberty seeded quarters this year, because the price has probably tanked, I would say, at the finest end, maybe 10 to 15%. The strategy that you should do, at least for us, when we're buying these coins that are low right now, is to sell it in a high market. So we do have the ability to hold on to these coins. The same thing as a collector, as a buyer, you should be buying coins that are soft right now, that the market is soft. So yes, you should buy seeded quarters right now. But what this means is also, the downside to this is that when the market usually tanks in certain area, a lot of collectors, they become afraid of this. So they often, all of them sell, all the seeded cores you'll find now. So you'll find a lot of them trying to just liquidate everything. So you have to be careful to stick to the high-end premium, CAC certified with high appeal, those kinds of coins, and be sure to be able to hold them hold on to them.
Alrighty. What is the best manner to make a fair offer without insulting the dealer? For example, sources for making the offer, which I think we touched on it a little bit earlier. But is there
Yes.
anything else you want to add on that topic?
Yes. You know, certainly when we started out, when I started out, oftentimes one method that I used for one dealer was totally fine, whereas another method, the dealer, you know, he would be completely insulted by it. So I would say one strategy that I've used in the past is asking them, say X, you know, so and so, what is the best method? Are you open to offers? You can ask them this. You can say, are you open to offers? How much would you be willing to go down? And if you find, I also always found that if you support your offer by a number, by an auction results, the dealer has no reason to be offended or insulted then, because you do have some supporting facts. The last thing I want to say about that also is try to know which dealers are open to offers and not. You know, for example, you know, David Lawrence, you know, they have a make an offer button. That's very clear that they're willing to entertain your offers. Whereas some dealers, for example, Doug Winter's coins, you know, their coins sell out immediately or within a few days or whatever exactly the amount might be. So you have to know whom you're trying to make an offer to and try to learn and see how fast the coin sells. If a coin sells very quickly, it would be pointless for you to make an offer. If a coin sells or has been there for a while, I would recommend then making an offer on those coins.
Sounds good. Let's see, this one a little bit longer, so bear with me.
Sure.
I was wanting to get a clarification about dealers buying from collectors and the public. I find that this can be one of the best and least expensive ways to purchase coins compared to buying from other dealers, especially collections purchased from the public. I would argue it's the best way to buy coins as a dealer. Do you agree, and why or why not?
That's another good question. I would say no, in our opinion, respectfully, and that is because, you know, we have a good relation with a lot of dealers. So when a collector says, you know, this coin has sold, for example, for 10,000 last year, a dealer is aware of that. So a dealer understands. Another dealer might say, okay, I'm selling a dealer to another dealer. So we would be, you know, they'd be willing to sell it for maybe 9,000 or a little bit more than that. Whereas a collector, it's in the collector's best interest to maximize how much to get from when they're selling a coin. The reason is because when a collector sells a coin or a collection, they had to pay up for a coin often. So of course it depends, and we certainly do buy a lot from collectors. That's because we sell onwards to other collectors. We don't sell onwards to other dealers. So we might be an exception to the rule, but generally speaking, as a dealer, I believe most dealers would say yes from other dealers, and no to collectors.
Fair enough. Can you recommend any kind of formula for pricing cameo or deep cameo proofs?
Yes, and did they specify the type of coin? No, right?
No, it did not.
Okay, so if they mean, I would say probably Morgans are one big categories that are, you know, deep cameos and cameos. Another big categories are barber proofs, those ones, and Liberty and seeded proof also come in sometimes with cameos and non-cameos. So I'll answer questions for Morgan dollars. So for the Morgan dollars, you know, for example, we just recently purchased an 1880 Morgan dollar, and it's in proof-like. But I'll which is a great coin, which has a slight premium, but we'll talk about cameo and deep cameo. Okay, for deep cameo, how would you come up with a formula? There is no formula, except for these cases, we would use auction records. We'd see what similar coins have sold. More often than not, there would be no auction records for deep cameo if it's a rare coin. If it's a Morgan deep cameo, yes, there'll be auction records. But if it's a rare coin, for example, we had recently a 20-cent in deep cameo. I think it was an 1876 20-cent in deep cameo, and there were only 3 or 4 certified in the entire series. Whereas in cameo, there were thousands of them. How would you come up with a premium like that? Just because we only looked at a similar date. We looked at a different date. We went up. We said, since there's no auction records for 1876 20-cent, let's look up at 1877 in deep cameo. So I would say steer away from formulas and do a little bit deeper research into other dates, similar dates. So if it's in 1860, look at 1861, or if it's in 1870, look, go plus or minus a few dates and see if there's any similar auction results. That would be the best advice instead of looking at the formulas.
Alrighty. What's your view of classic commemoratives?
I would say it's a love and hate relationship with commemoratives. That's because the market, 10 years ago was incredibly high, probably maybe 5-6 times what it was now. The market then dipped, and commemoratives has seen this up and down, probably 3-4 times within the past 2 decades. It's one of the only series that's done it. It shot up incredibly and shot down incredibly as well. That's because of the number of collectors. Within 3 years, there have been 3-4 major sales of commemoratives, and that pushed down the value substantially when all those flooded the market. At the same time, when it was maybe 10-15 years ago, the premiums were unbelievably high, just because there weren't many top pops. And then soon after, there have been the finest knowns coming up, and they just gotten higher graded and higher graded. So a lot of people, a lot of dealers especially as well, they've lost a lot of money in classic commemoratives. As a collector, though, if you steer away, in our opinion, from the finest known classic commemoratives, you should be completely fine. So if you stay in the 65, or try to do a set, you'll be completely fine. 65, 66, that's great. This does not apply to any other series. I would recommend, in most type series, going for the finest known is usually a great investment, but I would steer away from it for the classic commemoratives.
Very interesting. Do you plan to use the new CAC grading service?
Yes. When we've been going heavily for CAC coins from day one. We've sold, we're probably one of the only dealers, not one of the only dealers, but we are huge proponents of them. Most of our coins, I should say, are CAC coins, are CAC certified coins, PCGS CAC mostly, but certainly we have some NGC CAC coins. So it's the same grading, team. It's the same company. Yes, the dynamics are changing a little bit. Yes, the grading. Yes, the crossover is going to be, it's going to be a little bit different. But I think if the market, and especially for us, you have to give time for the market to adjust. If you give them some leeways to correct some mistakes, which I'm sure there'll be some mistakes slightly here and slightly there, I do think, no doubt, that the market eventually will appreciate, and we will certainly sell the CAC coins with the new holder and under the CAC rating. Yes, so we will.
All right, similar topic. Would you say that the majority of coins valued at $500 or more have already been sent to CAC?
$500 or more. I would say $2,000 and more have been mostly sent to CAC. I would say 500 to 2,000. I would, if I had to put, just a random estimate, I'd probably say maybe 30%, 40%, because sometimes the premium might not be worth it. If it's a $500 coin, the cost of shipping, the cost of receiving a CAC, sometimes if it's photographed, all these things might not make it worth it if it's a very $500 coin. But absolutely, most of the coins, over 2,000, I certainly do believe that.
Alrighty. Specifically with pre-33 gold with CAC, talking to dealers, they're telling me that finding new inventory is very difficult. When do you see more inventory becoming available?
Yes, so certainly that's one opinion from a dealer, and we've heard that opinion as well from other dealers. For us, we've been able to source gold coins, pre-33 gold coins very easily. That's because most of the coins that we deal in are, probably between the 2,000 to 50,000 for gold coins. And we deal with CAC coins, and we oftentimes we pay up for so we pay strong prices for our coins. So we almost always are able to buy coins because we know that our collectors they see value in this, or that this coin might be underpriced. So yes, I don't think there's a short supply for coins for pre-33 gold. We were able to source them very easily. I think some dealers say that, but if you put enough, if you have enough collectors whom you work with, or enough dealers, you will be able to, have a strong stream. So, and I would say probably, in general, every month, maybe 50 or 60% of our coins are rare gold coins, pre-33 gold coins. And I've seen some dealers also put up similar numbers. So I would say it depends on a dealer to dealer basis.
Speaking of dealer to dealer, how would you find out if a dealer buys primarily from collectors, dealers, or auctions?
So another great question. From auction, it's very simple. I'll start with the last part. From auction is very simple to figure out. If it's a PCGS coin, you just go to pcgs.com/cert, CERT. You punch in the certification number, and you will see if there's any auction records. That is the easiest way to find out if a coin has been bought from Heritage or Stacks or, Legends, one of these companies, for example. How do you figure out if a coin has been bought from a dealer or collector? That is a little bit more difficult. From a collector, you would see the type of coins that a dealer would buy from a collector versus a dealer buy from a dealer. I would say it depends on the type of coins. For example, if you see a 1794 large cent graded AU53 plus, these kind of one-off kind of coins, another dealer is less likely to have them in stock. These are collector coins. Most of the great coins end up with collectors. If you see them more of a generic date, 1874, just a common seeded coin, that's not that attractive, more often than not, that's from dealers. So I would say probably the better coins, if it's priced extremely high, for example, might be from collectors. And also just feel free to ask dealers, if was this from another collection? Was this from a customer? Was this from a dealer? You will get a sense based on looking at their entire inventory as a whole.
All right. What do you think about the new NGCX 10-point grading scale for modern US coins?
That's another, that took us a little bit by surprise at first, but then I think it makes sense for that market, because this is, for modern coinage. These are, I think it's 1986 and higher and later. So modern coins, they're trying to appeal to collectors, not just numismatic collectors, but collectors, stamp collectors, and baseball card collectors, all these different kind of collectors. And I think they're trying to draw in new collectors. So I think as a whole, this is good. NGC is doing a good job with that. It's not going to apply to the coins that we deal in. It's not going to affect us in any way. The only impact I can see is if you deal with these modern coins. And I can imagine more collectors coming in, because now they can understand that it's on a 10-point grading scale. So it took us by surprise, but I think they're doing the right thing with that.
All right. This is somewhat vague. What is your opinion on restrikes?
On restrikes, that's good. I do have an opinion on restrikes, so that's okay. Restrikes, if it's in the classical sense, for example, an 1804 restrike 1 cent, we don't deal with them, just because I don't think they're meant, especially, for example, private restrikes are even worse than just general restrikes. And I think they're probably referring to the private restrikes. That's probably because what we've seen is our collectors, they want the US, the typical sort of US numismatic, and a restrike sort of implies that it's not an original, maybe it was made at a later date or it was struck privately, not from, not under the US government. So we've steered away from that. The premiums, we've looked at the market, the premiums have never rose, the values have never rose, they've never increased in a while. So if they're referring to the US, typical US numismatics, let's say pre-1933 restrikes, which there are a few of them, then we stay away from them. If they're referring to, for example, an 1804 dollar, a Novadell, and that's a restrike, that's a $10 million coin, which that's probably a separate, that's a separate case. But in general, we stay away from restrikes just because we don't like them. Not because they're not beautiful, but because the market, in our opinion, has not appreciated them as being its own type.
Right. Do you ever get discouraged by the commodification of coins? There seems to be as much, if not more, interest in grades, grading companies, and stickers.
Oh, that's I think that's another great question. That's a tough one. And I would say is that we've had to adapt ourselves. It's simple. We've only had to adapt ourselves to the demand. And the demand states that we like stickers, we like high grades, we like the plus, we like the star, we like the CAC. So for us to do that, we've had to adapt. And are we discouraged by that? We still, I would say, no, for us, because we deal with, very, very rare coins in general. We deal with pop ones, we like extremely beautifully toned coins that are ultra rare, mintage 5, for example. So whether, if this mintage 5 coin has, has 3-4 labels, has some designation, has some stickers, it's not going to take away from it as much if we dealt with something generic. But I do think that there's a valid point in that question, in that at a point it's going to be too much. There's just too much going on, and that the focus is shifting away from the coin itself and more towards the commodification of it. So I think for now we are adapting to it, and I think the market is adapting to it. So I think we just have to go with the flow for a while and see how things settle in. I think, with the new CAC grading company, hypothetically, in a few years, that will remove one element out of the game. That will remove the CAC sticker out of the game because, the holder is there. So the market does, at least the CAC, the CAC company sees that as an issue perhaps. And so we are working towards it. So I think we just have to be a little bit patient, and the market will, self-correct in that manner.
Okay. Do you collect personally? And if so, what's your favorite coin?
Initially, when we started, I would say I started off with Indian pennies, like many numismatists do. But my favorite coin is actually one of the coins that in the first slide that I sold, which was an 1856 Flying Eagle. It was graded PR66 PCGS CAC. 1856 Flying Eagle is, the key date of the series. As a kid, I've always wanted one. And having bought and sold, this was the second or the third finest. The finest was a PR67 that Simpson sold for about 200,000 at auction. We sold ours for about 85,000, and it was, it was an amazing piece. It was proof that, the fields were pink. So 1856, that's probably, it was stuck in my, it's not the rarest, it's not the most valuable, but I think it just had the most meaning. But no, I can't collect, unfortunately, because most of the coins, if I ever had any great coins, our customers would want them, or our customers, would need it to fill. So I would not be able to do that. But I would say if I had the ability to, and if I wasn't, if we didn't sell coins, I would probably collect many series. For example, $5 gold, $2.50 quarter eagles, and a few other series. So yes.
All right. So we have a couple questions left that are both related to the CAC grading.
Sure.
So I'm not sure we need to keep going super in depth about that. So are there any other general opinions about it that you would like to share, or how you expect it to impact your business going forward?
Yes. So generally speaking, since we do deal with probably 95% CAC coins, we've had to think about this deeply. And you cannot go wrong, number one, with CAC coins. The only way that you can go wrong is if the market sees the new holder in a way different from the CAC sticker. And hypothetically speaking, these are one and the same. I do think that we have to give the CAC team and the CAC company time to adjust. There will be some time that we need to be a little bit lenient. Just like, when PCGS started and NGC started, the market needs to correct itself. How much the premiums are they going to go for? Whether the old CAC stickers are going to have higher premium now, we will have to wait and see. So there are many dealers who are supporting this. We certainly support them as well. I'm curious to see how it turns out, and we eagerly wait. So most of our collectors as well, they deal with CAC coins, so it's not going to impact us it's not going to impact us negatively. We would just have to adjust the prices of what we buy and sell. So we would obviously advise our clients as well to wait and see how these perform and then make an informed decision. Just like how we now, for example, look at a PCGS CAC coin, or rather a month before, we look at a PCGS CAC coin and we compare it with an NGC CAC coins. PCGS CAC coins sell slightly higher than NGC CAC coin. So there's an opportunity for arbitrage, but this is because the market dictated that. Whether there are going to be other opportunities, we'll have to wait to see. And we're certainly keeping a very close eye on that as well.
All righty. So that is all the questions we have currently. So I'm going to go ahead and do our little wrap up bit. And if any others pop up in the meantime, we'll come back to them. Otherwise, thank you, Shannon, so much for participating. We always love to have a dealer's perspective mixed in here. So it was really great to have you in here to share some insight.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And for everyone in the audience, thank you for watching. We'll have 2 more presentations starting at 1. Moved my paper. We have Franklin Noel and George Kuhey presenting at 1. So take a look at those on the schedule. Hope you decide to tune into one of them. And we'll be going all the way through the rest of today and then all of tomorrow as well. So thank you all for watching, and hope to see some familiar names in the audience at future presentations.